Hi there, guys. Now, it's a very, very, very wet and windy UK that I'm going to be reading you this book from. And it is, as you can see, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, but reimagined. It's kind of like an abridged version. So, let me just get my trusty glasses on. There you go. Now, retold by a guy called Tony Mitten and illustrated very well by somebody called Mike Redman. So there you go. Okay. Now it's very wet and windy and rainy outside, so sorry if you hear all the sound effects, but I often think that rain is pretty good for ASMR. The wind, not so much, but the rain is pretty good. We've actually been forecast snow over the next couple of days, but I'll believe it when I see it, because in the UK weathermen lie for no reason whatsoever. So, anyway, on with the show. This is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, retold. So, here we go. And the first page, we've got some snow-covered houses and shops and maybe a few chimneys. And I think that's a church steeple there. Okay. Now, on the very first page, you've got an idea of what Scrooge, the main protagonist of this story, is like. He looks miserable, and he's all alone in what looks like a great big mansion, and he's eating his meal all by himself. So, don't know whether you can see, that's Scrooge right there. There you go. He looks pretty miserable. And it says here, in London town there lived a man. His fortune, it was huge, but he was mean and miserly. Old Ebenezer Scrooge. That's him right there. Okay. Now, we've got a picture of Scrooge here, Ebenezer Scrooge in his workplace. And his clerk, Bob Cratchit, right there. And if you notice, Scrooge's place is all dark, and there's a couple of rats there on the mantelpiece, and it looks cold and unforgiving and horrible. There you go. And there's a chandelier there. It's going to bring that up, and that's Scrooge and Bob Cratchit. Okay. Now remember that scene. It says, our story starts on Christmas Eve as day was dying down. Old Scrooge sat checking his accounts, as ever, with a frown. His clerk, Bob Cratchit, sat nearby, scratching with his quill, and from time to time he rubbed his hands to warm them from the chill, because it was very cold. For Scrooge, being mean and miserly, would keep his chamber cold. The way he measured out the coal, you'd think that it was gold. There you go. And they've got these great big chairs with what looks like ladders on them. And I reckon it was to keep them warm. running up and down the ladders to do their work. But maybe not. Maybe I just made that up. Okay, so now the next page, we have Bob Cratchit there, and he looks like he's about to ask Scrooge a favour. Can you think of what that favour might be? Okay, we look over here, and there's Scrooge at the top there, all immersed in his work, and we look on the next page, we get a close-up of Scrooge there, and he still looks pretty miserable. Okay. Bob Cratchit is right here, looking very cold and nervous, and he says, "The office clock chimed closing time." Bob Cratchit gave a cough. "Tomorrow's Christmas Day, sir, so may I take it off?" Scrooge gave Bob a narrow look. "A day off, if you must, but I won't pay you for that day." His voice was dry as dust. Poor Cratchit nodded nervously. "Sir, Merry Christmas then." "Christmas? Humbug," Scrooge replied. "A feast for foolish men." There we go. Now, on the next page, let's see what's happening. Now that looks pretty scary to me. And it says, Scrooge closed up his office. He went back to his room. He ate his bowl of lonely gruel, surrounded by the gloom. But then the mournful ghost appeared, of Marley, his dead friend. That's Marley there. "I warn you, Scrooge, to mend your ways before you meet your end." Now, Scrooge was pretty unimpressed by this. And he said, Scrooge merely muttered, "Humbug, you're just a puff of smoke. Don't talk to me of kindness, and Christmas cheer's a joke." There you go. So that is Scrooge, tucked up in bed, looking very Christmassy and cheerful. Scrooge changed into his nightgown and tucked himself in bed. And as he blew his candle out, "Christmas, bah," he said. I don't know about you, I don't like this guy. But let's have a look at what happens next. There you go. Now he has a visitor. Can you guess who it is? There's the visitor. And there's Scrooge. But as the darkness gathered, a figure with white hair came shining straight towards him. Scrooge murmured, "Who goes there?" And she says, "I'm the ghost of Christmas past, and you must come with me, for I have things to show you, things that you must see." Now, this is where it gets interesting. There's a picture here of a little boy. Can you guess who that is? If we take it down, we see that, oops, wrong way. We see that the ghost of Christmas past has brought Scrooge to see this particular scene. It's this little boy There's Scrooge, and there's the Ghost of Christmas Past. I don't know how much you can see because the lights are reflecting off the surface, but you'll just have to imagine. It says here, they floated through the chilly air till Scrooge let out a groan. He saw his boyhood, I'll say that again. He saw his boyhood self so sad, sitting quite alone. The other boys had all gone home to family Christmas cheer, leaving poor young Scrooge at school, so silent, cold and drear. That poor little boy. You can begin to see how he grew up the way he did. Now on the next page, we've got Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, as a young man. And, oops, my fingers. And he's sitting next to somebody. I wonder who that could be. Let's read and find out. And then he saw his young man self rejecting, hour by hour, the chance of love and happiness to gain more wealth and power. So, that's Scrooge there, working away, and neglecting what looks like his wife or his fiancée, and very soon to be ex-wife or ex-fiancée. And she looks really nice. And Scrooge just totally neglecting her. I tell you what, if you'd seen some of my exes, you'd realise that I lost my sense of taste way before COVID. Scrooge clearly had better taste than me. But he messed up. So, don't take anything I say seriously. If any exes are watching this, I didn't mean you. So let's see what happens next. And what we have here is this guy turns up and he looks like the life and soul of the party. Can you guess who he is? There you go. Scrooge looks a little bit scared. It says here, Scrooge felt himself transported to such a startling scene. His room was full of festive fare and a jolly giant in green. I am the ghost of Christmas present, come to show you more. I bring you Christmas here and now, for folk both rich and poor. There you go, it looks like a lot of fun. So, on the next page, we've got Ghost of Christmas Present looking a little bit subdued. And we've got Scrooge next to him. And it says here, they flew through many a bustling street where cheerful people shopped. They came upon Bob Cratchit's house, and there the giant stopped. So you can see Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Present. And they're looking at this scene here. Now, who do we have here? We've got Bob Cratchit, just here. And he's kind of looking like a grown-up Harry Potter. And we have Tiny Tim laying down in his bed because he's sick. And we've got Tiny Tim's little sister. And we have Mrs. Bob Cratchit just here. And it says, although the scene was bare and poor, it shone with care and love. Scrooge felt a tug upon his heart while gazing from above. Now you can see his heart is beginning to thaw. Bob Cratchit's crippled son was there. That's him here. so pallid, frail and ill. "Will Tiny Tim recover?" Scrooge whispered. "Please, say he will." And the ghost takes him a little bit further on. And what you can see here is a factory, a bunch of workers on the way to the factory, and you've got the ghost of Christmas present up here and Scrooge next to him. Okay, can you see that? Let's just show you. There you go. And it says, "The giant, silent, flew him on to view the working poor," it's these guys here, "who grimly toiled by night and day to swell the rich folks' store. Scrooge witnessed how they laboured. They had no choice, they must. They worked their bitter lives away to earn a meagre crust." Those poor guys. Now the ghost of Christmas present takes him home, and can you see this, guys? He's sitting in his bed there. He's afraid now. Yeah. And who's this? Who's come to see him? Oh, I don't know, but it looks scary. Should we find out? Then, let's open this up. Then, as the vision faded, Scrooge found himself in bed. A hooded shape approached him, which filled his heart with dread. The ghost of Christmas future within his mind, he heard. The silent spirit took him, with neither look nor word. That's a spirit of few words, right there. And I don't know whether you can see, but this is where the ghost of Christmas future takes him. And you can see that's Bob Cratchit. And he's at the end of Tiny Tim's bed with Mrs. Cratchit there. Okay, should we see what happens next? They floated to Bob Cratchit's house, where sorrow filled the air. But Tiny Tim lay dying, a sight Scrooge could not bear. What's happening here? The silent spirit led him on to a corpse beneath a veil. It's this thing here. "Oh, whose is this cruel spectre?" Scrooge trembled and grew pale. Now, can you guess what happens next? There's a gravestone just here. The spirit told him nothing, but led poor Scrooge away to a drear, deserted graveyard, where a lone and plain grave lay. And there, upon the gravestone, Scrooge saw his name shone clear. "Oh, I beg you, spirit, tell me, does my own death draw near?" You see that? Let's show you. Oh my good Lord. What's going to happen next? So, the ghost of Christmas future takes him home. And there we have Scrooge in bed in the morning. And I like this book because this looks just like me before coffee in the morning. That's pre-caffeine Tom right there. And it says, The ghost stayed still and silent as light began to rise. It merged into his bedpost before his very eyes. Then, was this real or just a dream? Who cares, for I'm still here. I have a chance to make amends and spread some Christmas cheer. So he's finally got it. So he rushes to the window and he says, can you see, guys? Can you see that? That's Scrooge. That's a changed man right there. And he says, Scrooge ran to pull the window up, and a boy was passing by. Say, what's today? He shouted out, and the boy gave this reply. Why, Christmas Day, of course, sir, said Scrooge. I'm not too late to put some Christmas turkey on poor Bob Cratchit's plate. There you go. Now, this next scene. Don't know whether you can see. There you go. That's Scrooge doing some shopping. And all the shops and the stores are open inexplicably on Christmas Day. And it says, he paid the boy a shilling, or even a shilling, to take the turkey there to Bob Cratchit's house. And then he went to buy some gifts for the Cratchits, all to share. Wow. All right, on this next page, what do we have here? Scrooge is a changed man. And he says, and later, when he called on them to spread some Christmas fun, Tiny Tim cried heartily, God bless us, everyone. Because he was better now. There you go. That's the Christmas goose or the Christmas turkey. And that's Scrooge there with all the presents. And Mrs. Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim's little sister just there. Okay, on the next page. Then as they sat to dinner, Scrooge made a Christmas vow to be a better boss to Bob and pay him well from now. Okay, now the next scene is in Scrooge's house again. Now, try not to hit the mic. Can you see how it's changed? See? Now if we look back, where are we? You see how dark and dreary it was? And now it's changed completely. There's a Christmas tree and it's full of lights, and we've got on top of the mantelpiece, we've got decorations and light, and we've got some stockings there hanging a little bit too close to the fire for my liking, but hey. And where are we? There you go, there's the fire there. Coming up to the end now. So it says, but more than that, he'd use his wealth to help the sick and poor. For what's the point of money that gathers dust in store? And that's how Scrooge the miser was changed to Scrooge the man, who keeps as kind a Christmas as any person can. Isn't that cool? Okay. On the last page, guys. You see? There's old Ebenezer. Right there. Oops. There you go. There he is. He's surrounded by an adoring family. And it says here, so let us do like dear old Scrooge as Christmas time draws near, and fill the world with peace and love, with kindness and good cheer. There you go. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love this story. if you get a chance, if you check out the version on the BBC of A Christmas Carol, it came out last year with Guy Pearce, and it's just wonderful. If you get a chance to see that, you'll have your mind blown. It's like a reimagining. It's just wonderful. But what this book always said to me, it's less about Christmas, and it was more about, no matter how old you are, how set in your ways you might be, no matter how big a mess you perceive your life to have become, you can always, always, always change it round. It's never too late. So, remember that. It's my Christmas present to you. It's a bit of Christmas knowledge right there. So, Merry Christmas to everybody. 2021 is going to be brilliant. I just know it. You're going to have a great time in 2021. You can do all the things that you've always dreamed of doing, I'm sure. Or at least take the first steps towards doing them. But have a great Christmas. Have a great rest of the year. The dogs say Merry Christmas. I say Merry Christmas. Kristen Stewart, just behind me on this picture, up here. Can you see her? She says Merry Christmas. She's given me permission because I'm her ASMR representative in the UK. So she says Merry Christmas. The stress balls say Merry Christmas. I say Merry Christmas. I'm just rambling. And I shall see you again soon. Thank you so much for listening. Love you all. Bye-bye.